Coach, circle back maybe to Saturday night. The line with Yegor, Matt, and Connor, three guys under the age of 26. What'd you make of that line's kind of performance and their first kind of time together? And maybe do you see that as a line that can potentially become something?
Well, we'll see. I mean, Yegor's done a really good job of, I'll say, changing his game a little bit, because we've asked him to play middle of the ice. That's not a secret, but I think he's done a real good job of figuring out how to generate within that role. The two guys on the outside have a good skill set with them. So when you talk about young and energetic guys, that's what Czar and that's what Matty should be. So it gives them an opportunity to play with like-minded people. And the challenge for us and for them is to make sure that when they don't have the puck, they're really dialed into their details and how they have to play the game.
Is that a maintenance day for Ras?
Maintenance day for Ras, yes. Yeah.
In terms of Matt's play, have you seen his details improve since you first saw him in October?
Absolutely. We were just talking about that in the room. We've talked a lot about the American League coaches. They try to play the same way we do. They try to instill the same things into their players that we do. And you can see that they've spent a lot of time with Matty. Because this time since he's come up, you can see a guy that's really, he's aware of where he should be on the ice. He knows where to put his stick now. So I think a lot of that credit has to go to the American League staff and the time they put in with him, because it's noticeable. And that's going to give him more opportunities to play in more situations because of how he's trying to really learn it, but he's also applying it, which is the cool thing for us to see.
Do those steps have to be there first before the production starts to come too?
Yes, to be a complete player, I think they do. And then once you really have a handle on how you have to play the game, and then you don't think about it anymore, you just play, which will allow our player just to find those spots where he's good at getting into, and it's going to allow him to shoot the puck more because he doesn't have to think as much when he's in a position where he doesn't have the puck. So he's getting himself there, and as we've mentioned earlier, he's much better than what he was the first few times we brought him back up. So he's done a good job.
And you've had guys from college come up when you're in the American League, when you're at this level, sort of having to learn the different nuances of this game. Do you think that was sort of just the process that Matt was going through as he built his game up?
I think part of it. I also think part of it is the schedule. This is a different schedule. Like I think at Christmas time, the amount of games that he had played was more than like his last couple of years almost combined. So he's got to learn how to manage a workload. College players too, Matty, as we're talking about, he has to manage that workload, the practice schedule, the travel schedule, and he has to find a way to take care of himself to make sure he's energized. And that takes a little bit of time. That's part of the growing and learning process. And I think he's figured it out now, and he's getting to the point where he's much more comfortable when he's being put in these type of situations.
Broad question, but what are some good attributes and qualities you look for in some of the best defensive forwards in the game?
Well, the character typically comes with all of those guys because they're willing to do whatever they have to do to help the team win. They have to have some smarts and they have to be detailed guys. But nowadays it's changing a little bit that when you talk about your defensive forwards, there really isn't that role per se anymore. They all have to be able to generate offense, but those guys that you're talking about do it the right way. They don't take unnecessary chances. And Blake is an example of that. Michael Backlund's an example of that. They play the game the right way, but they're still able to generate.
Ryan, you've alternated Jacob and Dustin the last number of games. Is that something we should be expecting going forward?
No. They're both going to play a lot of games. Well, so whether it's back-to-backs or it's 1-1-1, that's still up for debate, but it won't necessarily be the alternating all the way through.
So you're going to tell us who's playing tomorrow then?
No, not today, maybe tomorrow.
When we asked you about, obviously, the defensive side of Blake's game, but one away from 30 goals. What do you think that would mean for him?
I think it would be a really neat thing for him. I think it's a feather in his hat that he's aged, as we all know, and that is kind of the normal course of action. But I feel like he's gotten better this year in particular for us, and for him to be able to get himself to that number, I think is a cool thing because he hasn't lost who he is, and that's what I love the most about him. He's found a way to put the puck in the back of the net, hasn't lost track of who he is, and that's what makes him a really important player for us.